In this video, I'm going to be walking through exactly how we use ChatGPT to get more customers and build more sales pipeline. We've used this exact workflow to help generate over 1,000 leads for ourselves and our B2B customers. So if you're a B2B business owner, sales leader, or someone that's in the midst of testing a bunch of AI tools and is actually unsure of how to use ChatGPT to use as part of your outbound workflow to get more customers from cold traffic. The tools that we actually use as part of our workflow is going to be some custom GPTs built up with Clay, Instantly.ai, an email sequencer, and ChatGPT. So these systems have worked to generate anywhere from 15 to 20 qualified B2B meetings every month. And you've probably heard of a bunch of AI SDRs, AI tools in the market, but you actually need a bit of human intervention to actually make these systems work effectively. And I'm going to tell you exactly how it works in this video. So in terms of cold email, so you've probably ran it before. You've ran email blasts from your CRM, probably ran some MailChimp sequences, some campaigns, some manual email blasts, some LinkedIn prospecting, and you probably know how much time it takes to spend hours researching an account, finding contacts, and then sending an email, a personalized email, and then not even getting a reply back, let alone an open, which, by the way, open tracking should always be turned off, as when you add open tracking to your email, it actually adds a link to your email, which then hurts your deliverability. So you should always measure your email deliverability from your reply rates. So the easiest way to tell a prospect can tell that you're using ChatGPT is if your email starts with "hope this finds you well" and then ends with "looking forward to hearing from you." And even if it doesn't include that, if it sounds too salesy and there's an M dash, you probably know that this person has used ChatGPT to make that email, and it screams a bunch of automation. So the way I'm actually going to be walking you through how this works is we found a way to find in-market buyers. So there's a percentage of your market that currently are interested in your services that are based on intent signals, and there's a percentage of your market that are completely cold traffic. And you want to run campaigns to the intent-based plays as well, but also to cold traffic, because the problem with the intent-based campaigns is they're pretty unscalable. Like, you'll be able to run it for a period of time to website visitors, people following your competitor, people engaging with your competitor, but there's only a finite amount of data out there for that. So you'd be able to run it and get a bunch of leads, but then the predictability and the resourcefulness of that campaign would not lead to you scaling it. So you need to run side by side a scalable cold email campaign just to cold traffic based on value props, lead magnets, and front end offers. And you want to personalize it at scale, but you don't want to use personalization just for the sake of personalization. Like, hey, we went to the same university, or noticed you're handling this at your company. The way you want to do it is you want to tie it into your offer. So let's say you sell like a remote workplace solution. You mentioned that, like, hey, I saw your post on LinkedIn mentioning that you guys recently moved over to remote, or you're moving into a hybrid model. This is how our offer works. We're offering a 3-hour free meeting session at our office in New York. Would you be interested? So you see how that offer ties directly into the personalization, or there's relevance if they're hiring, if there's a recent job change, funding. So that's where you actually want to personalize it. When it actually ties into your offer, you don't want to personalize it just for the sake of personalization. At that point, it's better to just have a front end offer that's actually optimized. And the way you want to do it is, when you're sending out these emails automatically, is you want to track a bunch of statistics that are actually useful. So as I mentioned, you shouldn't track open rates, reply rates, and a metric called email to lead ratio. So what that is basically is how many emails it takes to generate one interested lead. An industry benchmark is anywhere from 350 to 375. And if you find an angle below that, immediately you want to scale that. And this can vary industry to industry. Like, some industries, like an email to lead ratio of 500 might be perfect. For some, 1,000 might be perfect. And it just depends on your industry. So the way it essentially works is, step one, before you do anything in terms of even building out a list, thinking about what companies you're going after, first you want to define exactly who your ICP is. So on the company level and on the persona level. So anything along the lines of like the industry, size, region, if they're currently using a tech stack that you integrate with or might be interesting to you to know. And the way you want to think about it is reverse engineer what you would manually do. So let's say when you're researching a company manually to see if it might be a fit for you to prospect into and to sell into, you basically want to check if they have something on their website, maybe a tool that they're using, something mentioned on their LinkedIn, if they have a certain decision maker in their department, if they have a number of people in their department. So based on that, you'd work backwards to see what type of statistics and technographic data that you might need. And then from there, you'd be able to layer the intent signals and find the gold mine. So you'd be able to find those companies that are primed to buy and actively in the market for your solution. And you're able to build a list of companies that are completely cold traffic, but you'll be able to prospect into them as well as they fit your ICP. So the first step is to just essentially define your ICP. And I'll walk you through exactly how you'd be able to build out those intent signals as well, because this varies offer to offer. So what we actually use is Clay actually has a thing called Clay GPT, which is basically a custom GPT they built where you can search. You can search it on the GPT store. Like if you go to the custom Explore GPTs on like the right left hand side sidebar, you're able to find it. And this is basically primed on like everything along the lines of like ICP data, intent based campaigns, Clay custom signals. So everything around outbound prospecting and cold email campaigns. So the way you want to use it is this is the prompt that you want to use is below is my ICP, and then you insert everything about your ICP. So the job title, the company size, what industry they're in, what type of state do they need to be in to buy your service, what research points, what data points do you need? And then what you basically tell it is come up with 5 intent based outbound campaign ideas I would be able to use based on my ICP to generate more leads. And it'll basically get an output that Clay will recommend you based on your ICP and based on your offer. So you could actually below your ICP as well, you want to add your offer, and where you add your offer and ICP will match that to come up with ideas. So let's say you're selling a AI chat support bot. What it'll basically do is it'll to give you an example is it'll give you 5 different campaigns for that. One of them could be like people following your competitor, uh, people using ticketing systems at the moment, recently hired support leaders, CX leaders that you might want to go after. And it's literally going to depend on your offer and your ICP, but this is the first step of getting the campaign ideas. And once you've used Clay's GPT to get the campaign ideas, this is where you're going to be using instantly.ai, which is their email sequencer that we use to generate the copywriting. And this is basically primed into like fundamentals of cold email copywriting, which always works. This is from us sending millions of emails, is keeping it at 5th grade reading level, 50 words or less, and no links, just text only, value based, having a case study, and tangible outcome based offer tied into your ICP and resonates speaking with your ICP industry jargon. So these are you can pick and choose a bunch of these, but you want to keep these fundamentals right. Sometimes for some industries it can vary. We've seen long copy breaking all the rules perform as well. So it just varies industry to industry and you'll have to test it. But fundamentally, like if you keep most of these 3 or more of these intact for each email messaging framework you use, they're bound to be effective. And the way you want to think about this is when you're generating the copy. So I've actually put a sample here. So this is copy that has worked for us before, and it's based on like a relevant intent signal. It's has a case study. It mentions outbound. It mentions specific outcome based results, and it mentions a lead magnet call to action. As you don't want to pitch a meeting, you want to pitch something valuable to the prospect, and then from there you'd be able to follow up with them and schedule a meeting. And this is how the email goes that we've seen perform well is notice you had X number of website visitors every month. According to, you want to mention the source that you got it from, as sometimes it can be inaccurate. And this is all generated with Clay. We helped company X do this, and this is how much revenue they increased. This is why converting 25% of the website visitors every month that abandoned their checkout cart. Open to me sharing an ROI calculator to show you exactly how much money you might be leaving on the table. So you can see how each part, it's so condensed, and each part of the email is super valuable and ties into each other and flows well. So you've mentioned the relevance, then you've tied into the case study, and then you've told the outcome of the case study result as well. You've mentioned the mechanism, and now you're actually pitching them something of value that is hard to say no to. So like open to me sharing an ROI calculator before you even pitch them a meeting or you ask them for any sort of commitment, and just out of uh, human reciprocity, you're gonna get the reply from them as well, and they're essentially gonna book a meeting with you if you follow up correctly. But the way you want to basically think about running this campaign is take the ideas from Clay, build out the messaging using Instantly's GPT. You can also find the Instantly's GPT on the Explore GPT store on the left sidebar. And you want to basically use scaled mail to set up around 10 to 20 domains And then you want to purchase 10 to 20 domains, set up email accounts on those using scaled mail. Using those inboxes, you want to put them into instantly for Warmup. And then you'd basically add both of those campaigns in together and run that. And to be honest, I think you'd be pretty successful running this workflow just because of how it's worked. But if you're wondering how to actually use, like, if you Clay can get pretty complicated and like setting up the email infrastructure. If you're wondering or want us to build your outbound strategy, feel free to use the link below to book a call with us. Or if you're interested, feel free to message me on LinkedIn as well. I'd be happy to build you an audit of your. I'd be happy to audit your current outbound strategy and build you a whole custom outbound plan on how to think about running outbound for your company based on intent-based campaigns, cold traffic campaigns, and lead magnet campaigns. And yeah, hope you found this useful. Thank you.